Have a seat on your porcelain throne. It's time to talk some shit on the Powell Movement.
Welcome to the Powell Movement. I'm your host, Mike Powell, and I'm recording this intro fresh out of therapy. And you know what? I'm not sure it worked that well. Everyone is telling me that I need to speak to someone. And now I've spoken to 2 different people, and I don't think I've gotten anything out of either session. So I'm going to take a break from therapy. And while I know it works for a lot of people, I'm not ready for it, or it's not for me. Therapy or not, grief is crazy. It's like I was on the mic at an event for Best Day at Seafair, and I crushed it. But the second I put the mic down, I burst into tears and I had to head home. It was so easy for me to compartmentalize during the event, but it was just wild that the grief was just waiting there until I was done the event and then it showed its face. Anyways, for those of you asking if I'm getting any better, the answer is no, but I'm not getting any worse. I just miss her so much and she's never going to be back in my life. And while she could be watching down on me, which I don't believe, but some of you do, that doesn't really do anything for me either. I want her here, not watching me. But guess what? She is here in this episode, and I think she'd be totally okay with me using the clip that I did, and it'll be the first time, other than maybe an inappropriate questions to me years ago during one of my podcasts, that Angie's voice has ever been on the show. But before we get into it, I need to ask you to tell a friend about the podcast, because if you like it, your friends will too. And I'm not some famous athlete with a built-in audience. I'm just the best interviewer in action sports and maybe beyond, and you and your friends deserve the best, especially when it's free. But why is it free? That's because of some incredible brands, and they have deals in their ads, and they support this show on a weekly basis. The brands I'm talking about are Elan Skis, Stanley, Best Day Brewing, Liquid Force, and Outdoor Research. Now, it's time for the best of Inappropriate Questions, Part 2, 2025. That was a mouthful. Starting out this episode is a guy who I worked with for almost a year, but we never knew each other at work. Luke Edgar was running the K2 snowboarding division when I started with K2 skate, and really, there was no reason for Luke to know who the lowest person on the totem pole in the K2 building was, which was me at that time. But Luke was and is a legend, and he is a blueprint for how he likes to do things. It's the action sports kind of way, be different, irreverent, fun, and support your dealers. He did it at K2, he did it at Skullcandy, he did it at Traeger, and his last job, he was about to turn the cooking world upside down, and one of his first moves was a huge sticker order from me. He had so many cool designs, and just with them, he was going to differentiate his brand from the rest of the cooking world. And I was stoked to not only get some free cookware, but what Luke would be able to do with a brand like that. Unfortunately, the company that hired him for his sales vision and strategy didn't have the balls to follow his successful playbook. So while that whole process must have been a pain in the ass for Luke, Dave Billinghurst asked Luke a story that's a way bigger pain in the ass for him.
You've had a history of running into sharp objects while on snow. Tell us about the time you were speared with a ski pole and a tree limb.
Aha. Well, I have been speared. I've speared myself with my crampon. I have ran into a tree. So I got my laser eye surgery, I want to say 12 years ago. But before that, I ran into a lot of stuff, both mountain biking and snowboarding. Because I don't like to wear contacts and I don't like wearing glasses like under my goggles. So I would just kind of go with this fuzzy, feeling. And once I got the LASIK eye surgery, I got to tell you, that changed everything because I can ride without contacts or glasses and I really can see the shadows in the limbs. But we were doing a Rosignol event at the Canyons with a bunch of dealers in town, and I was taking dealers up to 99.90 and then hiking Square Top and then doing the super rad extreme run and riding across this frozen lake and then back into the ski area. And so I was on my third run. I'd already done 2 of them with dealers, and I grabbed another group of dealers. Who wants to go? I'm ready. Let's go. Grabbed another group of dealers, and we're going down in the bottom of Tombstone on our way to the chair. The run got pretty narrow because it was spring and it was melting out. There was still some snow, but it had gotten pretty narrow. I'm looking at this lady traversing across it, and I'm on that very edge of the snow, and it drops off into no snow. And I'm like, is she going to turn? Is she going to turn? And all of a sudden I realize, oh shit, I'm going pretty fast. So I'm still in control, but now next thing I know, I'm like in the air off the snow and I'm going through the woods and I'm like, oh shit, I'm going to hit that tree. I better hit the brakes. And so I go to the hillside edge on the dirt and I hit this stump and it goes up my left butt cheek. And I get a stick up my ass. I didn't realize at the time. I just thought it was a stinger. And I stand up, and my buddy Chip Bowen was like, real monotone buddy, friend of mine, awesome, great sense of humor. He's like, Luke, you got a stick up your ass. Don't move. And I'm like, what? And I reach around and I try to Rambo the thing like, oh. He goes, no, don't pull it out. And I didn't know that at the time. You're not supposed to pull those sticks out like they do in the movies. So then I'm like, oh shit, now I am done for sure. At first I was still thinking it was a stinger and I might be able to ride out of it and keep going, but I wasn't quite sure yet. I was standing up and realizing, so I got this stick. So then the patrollers got to come and take me out, and it takes them a while to get me in the toboggan and up on the snow again and then down to the ambulance. The ambulance guy's reading my vitals and he's calling down to the University of Utah hospital. And I'm like, I need morphine. Because I've had a lot of injuries, so I know I need morphine. I'm like, I need morphine right now. And he's like, just a sec. And he's like talking on the radio again. I'm like, I have a stick up my ass. I need morphine. And these guys laugh, and he's like, hey, okay, just a sec. Just give me 2 seconds. Let me just get this called in. I'll get you some morphine. And then he starts talking again, stick up my ass. And so anyway, he's laughing, and they get me all set up. When I come into the University of Utah hospital, I'm on my stomach in my snowboard boots and my pants and everything. And now the morphine's kicking in, but the shock is wearing off. And I'm realizing I'm in some serious pain. And these guys are all looking at me like in shock, like, what's going on? This guy's got a stick up his ass. That's what I said. I go, what are you guys looking at? Nobody's ever seen anybody with a stick up their ass? So they're laughing. And I go, you can cut my pants off, but you cannot cut my boots off. You got to unlace those. And snowboard boots, they got an outer lace, a lower lace, an inner boot lace. Like, it's like a lot of laces to get those boots off. So finally they get them off. And I'd have 3 surgeries to get the wood out. The second surgery, they pulled out a 4-inch piece of wood. And so the doctor that worked on me was a doctor that had spent time in Afghanistan, and they used the same treatment that they do on shrapnel, where they used to just go in once, clean it up and close it up and you're done. But the infection rates were too high. So they realized if they go in, clean it out, and then just tape it up, but don't stitch it up, and then go in 2 days later, clean it out one more time, make sure they got everything, clean it out. And then they do it a third time on day 6, I think it is. So every other day they do a surgery. So they did the 3 surgeries, and I didn't know about the piece of wood. And so when I went back to my follow-up thing, he told me the story, and he said, have you ever seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail? And I said, yeah, like about 1,000 times. And he's like, when I pulled that piece of wood out, we thought it was a piece of your pelvis. We thought, did we take x-rays on this guy? And they're like, I don't think we did take x-rays. He goes, I think he's got a broken pelvis. And he pulls it out. He thinks it's bone. And then they pull out this stick, and it's still got a piece of Gore-Tex around the outside of it. I think I still have that stick somewhere in a plastic bag. He goes, I held it up, and everybody looked at it and went, whoa. Like, how'd we miss that the first time?
Oh, man, that is crazy. That is a great inappropriate question. Can you imagine what a Powell movement must feel like after an injury like that? I should have asked him, because with open wounds inside his butt and poop passing by that, well, that just doesn't sound good, and it doesn't sound like anything that I should talk about. But sticking with the gnarly theme, my next 2 questions are going back to back with no interjection from me. The questions go to Rick Thorne, and I met Rick at the 2024 X Games. I was stoked to get the invite from ESPN to cover this one, and I was able to break away for 3 days to work. That in itself was a rare thing for me. While I've traveled for work my whole life, the past 3 years, family and caring for family became more important than going on a lot of work trips. So I only did trips that I thought were important, and X Games was one of them. Like every event I do, I was the first person to get coverage out about the event the Monday afterwards, and I'm also the only content that really told the story of the weekend and what it was all about behind the scenes. I say that from my very humble and biased position. But anyways, now that I'm done tooting my own horn, I'm going to get back to Mike Rooftop Escamalia asking Rick Thorne about some gross and gnarly experiences.
Hey, Rick, can you give us some insight on how you tore your urethra, how you ended up with a piss bag attached to your leg, and if you can confirm or not confirm that it ended up spilling all over a girl you were dating's parents' mattress? Why, how, and what did you do?
So 1992, San Jose, you asked, were we grimy? And yeah, we all drove up in an Astro van to do the VS contest. And during the contest, my chain broke and I racked myself real bad. And I went to the bathroom and I pissed blood. And I didn't know what was going on. And someone said, you need to go to the doctor. But I went back to the hotel, fell asleep, woke up, the whole bed was full of blood, went to the urologist. Turns out I tore my urethra, and they had to give me a catheter, and I had to wear the thing for a month. It was horrible, dude. It was one of the worst things in my life. If you've ever had a catheter, and I had to wear it. So I started riding with this catheter. I taped it to my leg. It was wild. And so I was dating this girl at the time, and her friend had a party, and we were making out in her mom's bed. And there was a little spout at the end of my leg, like to drain the piss back. Almost kind of like if you're like, get lemonade out of like a, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like and she kicked the spout on accident. We were making out, and I felt the whole bed fill up with pee.
Oh man, that's great. All right.
So I got the blow dryer out, was trying to dry it, and I hung up the sheet. I hold the sheet, and I was trying to blow dry it.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to jump into his second inappropriate question.
You're arguably one of the toughest dudes I've ever met. What injury to you was the worst? Was it smashing your face on a loading dock and having to get your face peeled back to fix it? Was it ripping your urethra? Was it collapsing lungs? Was it one of the other million broken bones and terrible things that happened to you? I'm just curious to you, which one was the worst?
Yeah, which one was the worst? Man, I don't know. Like I've had a lot of weird injuries. Unfortunately, like they aren't very common to most people. But I hit a loading dock once and I broke my palate. And then I had a hairline crack go across the top of my eye socket and broke my left eye socket. And that came down and it broke my palate. So if I was to put my thumb in my mouth and I could move my palate up and down. So what they had to do to align it back is they cut my face and lifted my face and put screws and plates in my cheekbones to attach my palate. And then they cut my eye, and I have screws and plates in my eye socket. I got double vision. I lost sense of taste and smell. They gave me a tracheotomy. My mouth was wired shut. I had one long stitch across the top of my head. And that was about 3 months before the X Games.
And you competed in the X Games.
I still went and got 7th place. Everyone's like, are you going to go? I'm like, yeah, I worked all year to be in this. And I lay in bed, and I mentally visualize. I didn't want to miss out. And I just went for it. That one was gnarly because I was eating before I had surgery. I had to go home a few days because my face was really swelled up. I had all this fluid leaking from my brain. So what they did is they pulled my skin down. They cut my head from ear to ear and pulled my skin down and took fat from my stomach to stop the leak.
Oh, man.
And what was crazy about it was I lost all sense of taste and smell.
Forever?
And it was just the most depressing thing ever. No, but I could eat super hot shit now. It's crazy.
While those questions and answers were both gross and funny, the funniest part of this interview to me was that Rick took this one in a crowded coffee shop. I had to use a lot of filters to get his audio to come out okay. But why this was funny was Rick was telling all of these stories and his whole crazy life story out loud for the whole coffee shop to hear. Who does that? So we've started out with some gross questions, and I may as well keep that theme going. And this time we head to Whistler, Canada, where the talented and mostly quiet guy, Tyler Hamlett, asks legendary filmmaker Jonny Decesere about the special cookies he ate with the new Canadian Air Force guys.
I was just curious, what was that missing or magic ingredient that was in those cookies that JF and Vinny made you so long ago?
Do you remember some special cookies that JF and Vinny made you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember it very well. We were at Shane Zox's house, Whistler, and it was going to be a really fun night. Everyone was super psyched to go out. It was going to be snowing the whole night, the whole next day. So it was like this Saturday night or Friday night, let's go to the party. And they all knew I was into sweets. So there was a big chocolate cake that got left on the counter. And they cut it up and they had all these pieces. The cake was there, half the cake was on the counter, in the pan. And there was 5 pieces on the counter. And they were like, yeah, just take whichever one you want. And they purposely made one piece bigger than the other ones. And they knew I would grab that one. And inside of that cake was an entire box of chocolate X-Lax.
Oh, no.
Yeah, an entire box. And of course, I just thought the cake was crunchy because I was a sweetaholic. I was like, oh man, I love cake and I love chocolate. And so I ate the entire cake. And as I was eating it, they started videoing me, and they're like, "How's the cake? How does it taste?" And I was like, "Okay, there's something definitely wrong with the cake." But I was already like 3/4 of the way through, and I was like, "Dude, you guys didn't drug me or something, did you?" And they're like, "Ah!" And they were laughing their asses off. Hey, Johnny ate the cake. And then eventually they were like, "Look at the counter, man. Look at the counter." And I looked over and I was like, "What? What?" And I was looking around, and then I saw it, and I saw the box of X-Lax behind the cake. And I was like, "You freaking got to be kidding me right now. You guys just gave me, I could die from this." And I didn't feel it for a while, so I just kept getting ready, took a shower, and right as I was about to go out the door, it was like, and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm not going anywhere."
Oh, man, that is amazing. I thought it was going to be something like weed cookies or something like that, but that's
No.
even worse, man. That is like terrible to ruin a night like that. I was totally expecting a weed cookies type of question, but this one came out much more Powell Movement inspired, and I love that. Speaking of Halloween parties, while this one is out of order in the whole inappropriate question sequence, I recorded with big wave surfing legend Garrett McNamara pretty recently. And I remember Ange was in the hospital, and I couldn't come home to record because I needed to be there to hear from what the doctors had to say and be Ange's support system. And I can't remember if we were at Swedish or Fred Hutch Medical Center. And if you have cancer, first, I'm really, really sorry. And second, if you can, get yourself to Fred Hutch. I can honestly say that the empathy and care that we had was night and day from the other place that we went. And while neither place saved Ange, one treated her like a human and the other, not so much. But the reason this is even coming up is because I interviewed Garrett when I was at the hospital, and the reason Garrett is going here in the sequence is because his story is a Halloween party as well. North Shore, the movie, had a rad beach party scene. I'm sure you've seen the movie. You probably know Turtle and all the people in it.
I actually helped write that. The writer came to me and Brian King and asked us all the stories about the North Shore and went back and wrote it.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, I love that movie. I think everyone that I know loves that movie. While you might not party, what's the craziest beach party kind of thing that you've seen on the North Shore?
You know what? In the movie, we had that Halloween party. I was there. It was pretty cool. It was filming, but it was also kind of real. But the craziest party, there's been so many. The craziest I've ever gotten was partying with Buddy McRae and my birthday. We go to town, we party all night, then we come back and we're partying in his house at Sunset Point. And, it involves some skinny dick fin on the beach at sunset and running around, getting crazy, having fun.
Next up, we head to the ski race world and an absolute American badass. Tommy Moe is the shit. A dream dude to interview and a guy who's had the best career. From being the talented racer who is always getting in trouble for doing things he shouldn't be doing, figuring out how to balance, or at least get away with those things, on his way to winning Olympic gold, to skiing in Alaska, the dude has lived an amazing life. Another guy who's had a pretty charmed ski life is Chad Fleischer, and Chad asked Tommy about getting injured partying.
Hey, Tommy. Hope you're doing well. So my first question would be, what is your best rookie memory, whether at a race, a rookie night, or of an older teammate taunting you?
There you go.
That's a good one, Fleischer. I'd have to say that the best memory that I have from those days was rookie night, because we'd all dress up in different costumes and we get really drunk and we'd all had skits that we had to perform. And I know that you, Reggie, and I all got a little bit loose and had a lot of fun. And I've even seen some photos from back in that era that were awesome.
Does that stuff happen today, or is that just something that happened in an era that's gone now?
I think they do. I know Ganong and some of those guys still travel with the Rookie Rock, which was started by Mike Brown, Bill Johnson, and Doug Lewis. And so if you won the Rookie Rock, you had to travel around with it, at least carry it in your bag for like a week or something like that.
So then that's an honor, right?
It's an honor to win the Rookie Rock, yeah.
Okay. All right. We will go into his question number 2.
Hey, Tommy, walk us through what happened the night you cut your hand wide open at Kitzbühel and you had to go get surgery and miss some World Cup races afterwards.
Oh, good one. Yeah, that was actually a party foul on my part. We were at the World Cup in Kitzbühel, and I think I did pretty well on the downhill. I had like 2 top 10s. And so sure enough, you go to the Londoner pub, and it's just a blowout. You walk in there, they hand you bottles of champagne, and champagne is sprayed everywhere, and beer is flying everywhere. And I was behind the bar bartending along with, I think, Darren Rolves and even Rasmussen and AJ. And we had our shirts off and everybody was soaked in beer. And I was like, I'm out of here. And it was probably early in the morning. And anyway, I went to climb over the bar to get out of the little horseshoe setup. And as I climbed over the bar, my hand slipped onto a broken glass. And I ended up severing my flexor tendon, which was a bummer because I looked at it and went, oh shit, I'm fucked. And I had to take an ambulance ride to Kitzbühel. And anyway, they reattached my flexor tendon in Innsbruck, and my season was finished for that 97 season. To say the least, my coach was pissed. So was I.
It's time for my first sponsor break, and I'm going to start out with Liquid Force. And not only are they back supporting the podcast, but this summer, they're bringing back the most important party and event in wakeboarding. That's right, Brostock is back, and the contest features the best riders in the world. But you know what's more fun than watching the pros ride? Riding with them. And you can ride with the Liquid Force pros like Daniel Grant, Claudia Pagini, and Gunther Oka at a local lake or cable park near you at their Ride with the Pro Tour. And while Liquid Force is doing all these great things to build community on the water, they're also on the forefront of product innovation. And if you're a foil frother, you're going to want to check out the new FuseLock foil system. Wake surfers are going to love the all-new Ace and Synchro offerings. And the 2025 line features fresh boards, rad graphics, and more comp vest colorways than ever before. Park to boat to foil, Liquid Force has gear for every rider type, whether it's boat, cable, foil, or surf. To find out more about the events and the products, head on over to liquidforce.com. And when you see something you like, put it in your cart, and when you check out, enter the code POWELL15, that's all caps with no spaces, and you will save 15% off your order. Liquid Force. Feel the pull. Next up, it's Elan Skis. And Elan doesn't need to support this podcast in the summertime. I've said that every summer. But they do it because they understand the importance of cultivating the stories that make the snow industry what it is. But if you haven't noticed, while they've always been big in Europe, Elan has built a growing cult following here in the States. It all started with the still thriving ripstick revolution that made skiing easier and more fun for anyone that tried them. That same idea, easier and more fun, is what they delivered to their Playmaker series of twin tips. How does Elan deliver a better ski experience? Well, it's all about using the best materials known to man. And that's no joke. This is the same Elan that's known for building award-winning luxury yachts. So they never cut corners. And the fit and finish is better than anything else on the ski wall. Seriously, if you pick one up and you look at the edges and you see those seams of glue on all the different skis, look at Elan's and you're going to see a seamless pairing because they do take that additional time to pay that attention to detail, and it's awesome. And it makes everyone feel like they're making pro-level turns. And that's what skiing is all about, that feeling. So remember, before you buy your next pair of skis, demo a pair of Elan's, or just head on over to elanskis.com, pick a pair, and elevate your skiing experience. My final sponsor this round is Best Day Brewing. And while I love the taste of a good beer, I don't always need the alcohol. I mean, my life revolves around driving my kid places, running errands, interviewing people, managing my family, and all of these things I do better when I don't have a head full of alcohol. That's where Best Day comes in. These days, if I'm not partying, I'm still having beers, and those beers are from the award-winning Best Day Brewery. And there are a lot of NA beers out there right now, but none taste as good as Best Day. I love the hazy IPA, the Kolsch that you can get on all Alaska airline flights, and everyone seems to like the Electro Lime Cerveza. I could go on and on as they have so many flavors, and I love them all. The beauty of Best Day is that they average about 60 calories and they won't get you in trouble. And pro tip, if you're partying, try to mix in a Best Day for every alcoholic beverage you have, and it will extend your night. It does it for me, and it keeps me from doing anything stupid. To have your best day or night ever, head on over to bestdaybrewing.com. If you make that order over $50, we'll also throw in free shipping. Those are my sponsors. Now let's jump back into the podcast. While getting injured partying sucks, what sucks even more is getting arrested partying. While that didn't happen with Josh Daiek, Stan Ray takes it back to Halloween and finds out his craziest Halloween story.
What is the craziest thing you've done on Halloween?
The craziest thing I've done on Halloween was actually a pretty fun one. One of my buddies hit me up and was like, hey, I got this idea for Halloween. What if we go to Vegas and we dress up like
the presidents from Point Break, and we go like base jump off a bunch of buildings and stuff. So it's pretty fun. That's one of the funnest parts of base jumping, I think, is because a lot of them are illegal and you're like sneaking around and trying to figure out how you can get away with things. But we ended up like jumping a hot air balloon, which wasn't illegal. The guy was aware we were going to jump out of it. But we also jumped like 3 casinos, and Halloween night, we went to this party and we devised this plan. Our buddy dressed as a minion, and we had to go through metal detectors to get to this rooftop party. So we snuck the parachutes, all of our rigs in the minion costume. And we get into this party, and it's like pretty much game on. Like you got to jump over this railing and do like a 10-foot drop down into this little sub railing to the exit point. And we went out there, and I just kind of got a bad vibe. There was like security in the LZ, and I was like, I'm not going to get arrested over this. So I pulled the plug, and I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'll drive the car, get away, like whatever you guys want to do. And then they got all mad at me, and then they all decided they didn't want to do it either. But then we went over to the Luxor, which is like the pyramid-shaped hotel.
Yeah.
And my buddy decided he wanted to jump the inside of the Luxor. And so then we like devised a way to, I think we ended up buying a room so we could get to the top of the Luxor. And my buddy jumped the inside of the Luxor, and it was like this crazy getaway. We had this getaway car, and then you're like running through the casino. And, you know, when a canopy opens, it's so loud. And just the crack and the echo throughout that building was crazy and just turned everyone's head there. So, yeah, that was a pretty wild event, pretty wild Halloween. It was super fun.
Have you ever gotten in trouble for base jumping? Like, it's all fun and games until you get in trouble or until there's an accident, but it doesn't seem like you've had an accident. Have you had a close call?
I have had a close call. Yeah, I almost drowned in the Snake River under the Prime Bridge once, jumping in the winter. And when I landed in the water, I didn't realize how big of a deal it was, because I've landed in water before in summer times, and, you know, you can swim out and it's not this big deal. And when I jumped and landed in the water in the winter, it was like freezing cold. And I'm like, oh, this sucks. And I didn't realize how big of trouble I was in. I was just trying to grab my gear, and then you're swimming with this like anchor basically.
Yeah.
And before I knew it, I was starting to get hypothermic, and I couldn't like get my equipment off me because it was dragging me down. And you know, I honestly thought that I was going to die that day. It was pretty wild. But I was able to like grab an air bubble in the canopy and just like slowly kick my way to shore. And it was like a lifeboat, like a little rescue boat. Yeah, so that was super lucky, super scary. Pretty humbling experience for sure.
I can imagine, yeah. And then have you been in trouble? Have you gotten caught?
I've never got caught. I know I've had to hide a couple times. Had to hide one time at Forest Hill Bridge. Maybe that was the only time. But it's always like kind of this crazy feeling like you're about to get caught. You know, you can't like really breathe till you're out of the area and like, oh, fuck, we got away with it. Thank God.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine there's like a lot of camaraderie built behind the sneaking around, breaking and entering, doing all that shit. Then everybody gets their adrenaline rush, and then it's back to the crew getting away.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all just like happens within a couple minutes, and you're like, wow, that was a lot of effort for that 2 minutes of adrenaline or 30 seconds of adrenaline or whatever, you know?
Good stuff all around there from Daiek. And if you haven't seen him ski, which would be crazy, just Google his name. He's so fun to watch, especially if it's your first time seeing him ski. Thinking about his story, I was supposed to base jump once. Shane McConkey got me to say that I would do one with him over on that bridge in Idaho, but then he died, and I had just had my kid. And coincidentally, actually no coincidence at all, my kid's middle name is Shane. And while I'll never do a podcast with Ange because she didn't want to do a full podcast, I'm going to have her tell you about how Keaton got his middle name Shane.
So we went to their wedding. It was in Pike Place Market. It was great. He's like, you are going to meet that's how Mike prefaced it. You're going to meet one of the funniest people you've ever met in your life. And I was like, okay, whatever. Like at that point, we've been together, you know, for 1.5 years, 2 years. And it was just like skier after skier. Like after a while, they all kind of blend in together. And I was like, okay, whatever. And he was like, I met this guy named Shane McConkey, and that was the guy he was talking about. And then there were a bunch of other guys, the Red Bull Air Force team. They'd like jumped off buildings or planes. They did crazy stuff, and that was our table, which was kind of cool and pretty awesome. But I ended up sitting right next to him at the table, and then I ended up sitting right next to him in the ceremony. I mean, like thigh to thigh. It was very, very tight, and he was cracking jokes like the whole ceremony, and it was awesome. Well, unfortunately, 2 weeks later, he got in an accident where he was killed, and it just hit me one day, and I said it in my head, and I'm like, we have to name him that. So Keaton Shane Powell came about, and yeah, he started tearing up, and I'm like, that's what it's got to be. Like, it sounds perfect. And I mean, what are the chances that I spent so much time with him that one night? So very special. And his wife is a big part of our life now, and it's pretty cool.
That was so hard to edit. Why do I do that to myself? I recorded with Ange for like 3 hours, and I was thinking of putting an edited show out with her and then making a great long edit for my family. But based on putting this clip in here, that's not going to happen anytime soon because it would be too painful. And I'm not going to put out an Ange Powell episode. She really didn't want that. And while she was open to it, it all depended on how the cancer part came out. Unfortunately, we didn't get that far in our interviews because while we recorded for like 3 hours, like me, Ange is a talker and she never made it to the cancer part. There was just too much other stuff to say. And honestly, I'm glad we don't have that on record. We lived that shit and it was terrible. And while she's gone, I'm glad she doesn't have to deal with any of that suffering anymore and we don't have to watch that anymore. It was truly miserable. I will say this is an inappropriate question show. And while I'm pretty confident that this segment was all my idea, Ange was 100% sure it was her idea. And I'm going to go with it. So Ange created inappropriate questions. And with Ange, life was not fair. And with skiing, judging is not always fair. And now that absolute legend and cancer survivor Sick Rick Armstrong is a dad, he has to deal with his daughter not being judged correctly. And that's a really hard thing for him. You're a free ride parent these days. And you were a judge back in the day. And you were a serious judge. So what happens when your daughter doesn't get the score that she deserves? Like, are you able to keep that inside? Do you get pissed off? Like, how are you able to deal with that?
No, I'm brutal. I'm the worst case scenario for bad judging. I can't help it. That's why I hate doing it, because I think I alluded to it earlier. I'm so particular about judging people correctly. And I've seen my daughters compete and I've seen them overjudged. And I've told them this, that, hey, you got better results than you should have. But I've also, my young Ellie Snow, she won the junior championship. She had the best run by far. And she got third because there was 2 Tahoe judges and there was 2 Tahoe girls that got first and second. And I was pissed. And I had video of all this stuff. And I put a video online that said who won the run, and it outlined both the runs. And just so you know, it was 190 votes that my daughter won the run versus the other one. And I was pissed. So yeah, it pissed me off because my daughter and I worked very hard. Ellie Snow is this wicked good skier, and it got stolen from her. And so, yeah, I have a reputation of being hard ass in that sense. And I don't mind that, because I think I talked about it earlier. I think every athlete should get the score that they get. And if my kid doesn't perform, they should be in last place. Seriously. But if they perform, then they should get the score that they should get. And I actually am a proponent for redoing the judging system that I helped write. I think we need to redo it, and we need to get more critical about it. I think we need to get better at it. I think the judging criteria needs to get more finite and just better. And the reason I say that is now that none of my kids are competing, I should be involved with it just to help the sport, because I believe that the athlete that performs the best should win the competition.
Khai Krepela, or Khai Krepela, I can't even remember how to pronounce it. I'm sure everybody pronounces his name wrong. But either way, he was known for his skills in the streets, and he made a full-on career of that. There was no judging needed for him. And when he was done making pennies skiing, he went on to pay people to ski as the TM at K2. And I was able to get his good friend, Olympic head judge Jason Arens, to ask him about living off the land when he was making pennies. And then the final question is about Khai winning, and it's not a contest.
Hey there, Khai. It's Jerry here. Mike has tasked me with coming up with a few inappropriate questions for this podcast episode, so here we go. 1. In your early days as an aspiring professional skier, did you ever find yourself in a situation that required you to live off the land? In other words, you needed to hunt or fish to provide yourself with meals.
Yeah, that's a good question, Jason. Yes, when I was living in Tahoe, I was so broke that I spent my last $30 and a little bit of my buddy Garrett Jurich's last bit of money on a couple crawdad traps, top ramen, and canned corn. And we lived near a lake, so I'd go trap crawdads every evening, and I would bring them back, and I ate crawdad soup for about 3 weeks. Yeah, that is a true story.
No way. That's all you had was crawdad soup and ramen?
And I think I also maybe bought some pancake mix. And so I had like a bit of pancakes in the morning, crawdad soup at night, and that's what I ate.
You're lucky you didn't get scurvy. Let's go with your question number 2.
2. This one's more of a hypothetical, and also one that will have multiple choices as to what your response would be. You're leaving a bar and encounter an unhappy local bar goer in the parking lot who happens to be brandishing a gun in your direction. Your immediate reaction is one of the following. A, oh my God, that's a gun. B, whoa, calm down, let's talk about this. Or C, what are you going to do, shoot me?
Well, we're going to go with C from experience.
So what happens?
Not my proudest moment, but it happened.
And you call the guy's bluff, what are you going to do, shoot me, and what does he do?
He doesn't shoot me. I'm
still
here. So I guess I won that one.
It's time for my second round of sponsors, and I'm going to start things out with outdoor research. I've been using OR products since I moved to Seattle almost 25 years ago because they outperform everything on the market. I mean, they build their products to perform in the wet and soggy cold weather of the Pacific Northwest. And when you live where we do, you need to have the best in class. While OR has always been known for building industry-leading gear for mountaineers, skiers, and snowboarders, they've gone all in on an award-winning bike line that FreeHub describes as outdoor research has once again raised the bar, offering riding gear that's not just functional but also stylish and durable. That meticulous design and thoughtful engineering of the Freewheel collection have the power to transform the mountain biking experience. So high praise, and Outdoor Research is doing a lot of things on the athlete side. While they launched with an incredible team, they had the Van Steenbergen brothers, Georgia Astley. This year, they've added Casey Brown, Carson Storch, and others. And between the athletes and the events they support, while OR might be new to the bike world, they've always lived it, and there's not many brands doing what OR is doing in the world of bike. To see the new products and what the hype is all about, head on over to OutdoorResearch.com. My final sponsor is Stanley, the iconic Northwest brand that invented the category of keeping things hot and cold over 100 years ago. You remember Stanley from your grandfather's green thermos that kept his coffee hot forever when he took you out on adventures. Well, Stanley still makes that bottle and so much more. Think tumblers, water bottles, barware, camping utensils, coolers, vacuum bottles. There really is something for everyone at Stanley. And between the unique colors and the collaborations that Stanley's doing, there really is something for everyone in the Stanley line. And they're not going to gouge you with crazy prices. Stanley is the originator, and they pride themselves on providing you and me with the best products at the best value. And that value gets even better when you shop with my code. To use it, head on over to Stanley1913.com, go shopping, and buy a ton of stuff because, like I said, this code is 30% off. It's the best deal that Stanley offers. And when you check out, enter the code capital POWELL. That's Powell 2025. So no spaces in between that. Capital POWELL 2025. That's where you get your code. Thank you very much for the support, Stanley. They make the best gear in the world. You've seen them everywhere. And if you don't have one, you definitely need one. Those are my sponsors. Now let's jump back into the podcast. And while that last part is funny, I think about death a lot lately. And there's a few kinds I can think of. Sickness, dying doing what you loved, an accident. But what happens if you get shot and killed there? People would be like, what happened to Khai? And the story would be, well, some dude had a gun to his face and he was like, what are you going to do, shoot me? And then the guy shot him, and that's how Khai died. But that didn't happen. He won that game, but it sure would be a shit way to go. An even more interesting concept of dying was Jeanelle Yip's. For her inappropriate questions, I got fellow blonde Emily Childs to ask her a question about a shit show travel story that involves gummies, Japan, and Janelle's belief that her and her friends may all be dead and existing in an in-between realm or something like that.
Tell us the story of leveling up universes in Japan.
Oh, that is a good story. Okay, are you ready for this story?
I am ready for the story.
Okay, so the three of us had just finished filming a segment for MSP in Japan, and we're heading from Sapporo to Tokyo. And we had just visited our friend who is in the hospital in Sapporo, and it was a great visit. And then we just kind of realized we're like, oh, we got to like book tickets and get back to the main island. So that was just a big kind of shit show. We were trying to make it to the airport. Our friend has like all of our gear, like our ski bags and stuff. So we get to the airport. We're like 30 minutes from not being able to get on this plane at all. So we're really cutting it close to like even be able to board. We're grabbing our luggage. We're like trying to find out where the check-in is. We're running around. And then I realized I'm not even on this flight actually. And I didn't even have the ticket booked. So I'm like, oh crap. So I get my gear. I see Emily got her gear and she's like opening up her suitcase for some reason. All her stuff's like strewn all over the place. Our friend Sakuma-san, who like dropped off our stuff, is just this sweet Japanese man, and he's like incredibly stressed for us because he's like, "You're so late, you're gonna miss this flight." We're like, "Oh, we need our stuff," so it's just so stressful. And I just leave Emily behind because I'm like, I gotta get my tickets sorted out. I run to the front. Tanya's there. We're so sweaty. We get checked in. I get a ticket. We go through security, and in the line of security, Emily just like hands me like a mushroom gummy, and she's just like take this. I was like, okay. So I just like put it in my mouth, like didn't even think of it. Like your best friend just hands you like a pill, you're just like whatever, you just take it, doesn't matter. And and so that's in my system now, and we're going through security, and of course they're searching Tanya's bag like every time they search Tanya's bag for some reason. So the minutes are ticking down. They're like looking at like Tanya's like ski gear. They're like, what is this? And her shit's strewn all over the place. So we get that packed up. And finally we get on this plane like against all odds and like extremely sweaty. And it's so chaotic. And we're just like, oh, okay, like we're on this plane now. Like this is great. We get into the air, and I don't know if you've ever flown from Sapporo to Tokyo, but it's got to be like one of the most gnarly flight paths in the world because it's like incredibly turbulent with like massive storm cells moving through there all the time. So that's kind of what happened as we got into this big storm cell, and it was probably the most turbulence I've ever experienced on an airplane still. And like people are like clutching the front seats and like praying 'cause this thing is just like shaking so much, and like we can see the snow out the window. And Emily's sitting right behind me, and I'm just looking at her. I was like, oh my God, like, are we gonna die? And like, we just had this little conversation of if we die, like, that's fine. Like, we're together and like having a really good time, and that's all good. So then we land in Tokyo and get off the plane, and I'm just like, that was an insane flight, you guys. I think we died. I think this is the next universe. We're dead right now, and we don't know, but like our plane for sure crashed, and we're done. So we get into Grand Central Station, Tokyo. It's like biggest train station, one of the bigger ones in the world, and we're just getting on these escalators, trying to get out of the train station, and we get on escalator to escalator to escalator, and we like can't figure out how to exit. And I'm like, oh my God, if we don't find our friends in like the next hour or so, like we're definitely dead. Or I'd be like, if we get onto another escalator, like this is the afterlife. So that was kind of the running joke for like the rest of the evening. Like every twist and turn that happened, we were just like, yeah, like this is the afterlife for sure. So we're kind of convinced that we portaled into another universe, and in like one dimension the plane crashed, and then in the other dimension we live and keep going. So that's kind of our theory now. Anything like near death happens, we're like, oh, we're like portaling into the next universe, and then yeah, we're like, oh, this universe is awesome. Like
that must have been an amazing feeling when you kept going up those escalators being like, maybe that plane really didn't make it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was really trippy. Maybe fed by the mushrooms a little bit. I don't know.
Oh man, Jeanelle Yip is so fun, and I don't even know her. I know of her, and that's the case with a lot of people that I interview. I get to know them through the podcast, but I really don't know them, and I can't say I'm surprised that Jeanelle's so fun because I've seen her online forever, and all the blondes seem like the funnest girls in skiing. But either way, someone I do know is Erick Garcia. He skated for K2 when I was the skate team manager, and he was one of the best to travel with. Erick asks older pro blader Cameron Talbot about destroying property, but I wanted to put this part in the podcast for the lead up where Erick recalled me being a team manager and how things could go when I was leading the charge. I've got a long intro of inappropriate questions here.
Erick Garcia, ESG, and he's a photographer, he's a skater, he runs a skateboard company, he does all this different shit. But I used to travel with Erick, and we once spent time in Detroit. Erick, we were in Detroit. You used to tell a story, or you told it to me once, about how we woke up with some kind of pizza and you thought it was funny. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Absolutely, I remember that. I was in Michigan at Airborne.
Okay, so what's the story here? We can tell a funny one about me before we get into Cameron.
All right, so now you're really making me dig deep, but I definitely vividly remember. Okay, one, we stayed at like the Roach Coaches motel that I can ever possibly remember.
Worst place I've ever stayed.
The dirtiest of dirtball places. And we, of course, we all kind of like stuffed in there. It was like probably like 6 of us in one room and the rest of the group in the other room. But I remember you were in our room and they came with microwaves. And I don't know even where you got the damn pizza from, dude, but you literally, I remember waking up to the microwave going on and smelling it, and you were just there looking dirtball as can be as well, but you know, team managers do that at some point during the tour. You literally, man, just pulled out this like sloppy melted slice of pizza, and I was like, what are you doing, dude? Why are you using that microwave? That was really what got caught my attention. I was like, I wouldn't even have touched that microwave. So you know, hands down to you, bro. I don't recall you getting sick or any type of like food poisoning, so you probably got a gut of steel.
It's pretty funny because we're talking about one of the healthiest skaters out there on the planet, Cam, and at that time, I was definitely the unhealthiest person on any tour. You were able to witness that. But let's jump into question number 1 for Cameron Talbot.
All right. So how do you feel and think about the people, homeowners or not, that yell and curse you out when you're skating and damaging up their house in San Francisco?
Oh, man. All right. Well, I'm sure. Fuck. Well, I kind of have a little system. I mean, San Francisco is known for house skating, as a lot of people know. I stay out of certain neighborhoods. Like some of these old Victorians, they're not just one house. A lot of times they've been converted into multiple units, you know? So when it's an apartment, I don't feel as bad. But if there's someone screaming at me while I'm trying to do something, I'm definitely trying to do it. And to be honest, they say they'll call the cops. I'll just say, go for it. Because in SF, like, cops just like don't even, it's insane if they show up. So I guess that's the shithead kid in me, but I just love to skate and I'm going to get it anywhere I can. And if they're yelling at me, I'm just going to go for it. I just don't even care.
That's so funny because everybody also says that you're like the nicest dude ever. You're so thoughtful and kind, and you look like you kind of have a hippie aspect to you because of dreadlocks. We'll talk about that in a minute. But when it comes to skating, all of that goes out the window because you need to get your clip.
Yeah, I sound like such a shithead, but yeah. But just for the record, if it looks like a pristine, crazy house, or it's a one, like most of the times you could know people are living there and own it if, you know, it's just one unit, one house. But when it's cut up into 6 different units in an old Victorian, like shit, that guy probably lives somewhere else and he's just charging high rent to these poor suckers. So fuck, you know, fuck him. I'm going to skate your rail, man. Sorry, dude.
My final question is going to go to Sam Kuch. He's a throwback to when dudes partied their face off and went huge. And while I'm sure Sam's partying has slowed down after he had a child, his appetite for risk hasn't changed based on everything I've seen. I will say that one thing in my life that I've never done and I never plan on doing is going streaking. But Sam Kuch can check that off his list.
Question number 1. I am wondering if there's any nights that have stood out to you on our MSP premiere tours that we've done. We've had a lot of crazy nights, and there's a lot of memories that come to mind for me, and I'm just wondering which stands out to you the most and which story you'd like to expand on.
The MSP movie premiere every year, I think the best one of them all always happens to be in Crested Butte, Colorado, the hometown of MSP. And one year we were just on a bit of a tear. We were there in the same movie with the Blondes and Bull and I, and Adma was there as per usual. Gaffney was there. We were sending it every night. And one night we all ended up, the Blondes were there, and they were just being crazy. Like, they were just spitting booze everywhere. They're soaking the floor of the bar. And I just remember them having the idea to get naked and streak down the main street of Crested Butte. So we all, including Scott Gaffney, ripped our clothes off, streaked the street. Everyone saw us. It wasn't even that late in the night. That was one crazy one that comes to mind during the MSP film tour.
I love it when a guy of new reminds me of a guy of old, and that's what Sam Kuch is. While I love the incredible skiing that we see from those who treat their bodies like a temple, Sam is a reminder that you can still do it another way and be one of the best, and he sure is. I'm going to call it with that last answer. That's been the Best of Inappropriate Questions Part 2, and it's back to regular interviews next week. But I really needed these 2 weeks where I still had to work on a podcast, but it was more me listening to episodes instead of me researching someone new. I needed that because I needed a little time to help plan for Angapalooza in Seattle. And if you're wondering what Angapalooza is, well, it's a celebration of life for my wife, Angela Powell. And I will say that on August 23rd, we will all be convening at the Admiral Benbow in West Seattle. If you know me, if you knew Ange, if you have seen us anywhere, if you listen to the podcast, if you're part of the Seattle ski and snowboard community, you are encouraged to go to the Admiral Benbow. It's going to be from 7 to 2 a.m. We have the place rented out, have a karaoke DJ there. It is going to be a lot of fun. There's food there as well. There's going to be a little street fair as well. So it's going to be amazing. And the street fair is not for Ange, but it might as well be because it's Angapalooza. And I hope that you go there. It'll be awesome to see a lot of you people. You can see me cry in a big crowd. It'll be awesome. So please be there. I'll also be emceeing events, doing podcasts, selling stickers, managing a kid, and working on a home project that I really don't have time to do, but I will get it done. What I'm trying to say is I've been busy and this felt like a break. I know everyone is busy, so I hope you're not too busy to review me wherever you listen and check out my incredible sponsors who make this podcast happen week in and week out. And the brands I'm talking about are Elan Skis, Stanley, Best Day Brewing, Outdoor Research, and Liquid Force. Have a great week, everyone.